Okay, this video is going to take you through the JavaMathReview1 solution, and so this would be good to see how things go in here, especially if you missed some of this. So the important thing right now during this video is there's some noise in the other room, so hopefully you can overlook that and be able to pay attention to what's going on in this video. So here we go. So we have all these declarations right here that are already reserved. These memory locations are reserved right here, and they've been initialized. They've been given their first value. So that's already here in the memory locations. So we go to line 12, and it says num1 is assigned num2 times num1. Num2 is 8, so you write that above here, and num1 is 6. You write that above here. That's one of the things I said to do. These are the return values. And you multiply 8 times 6, you get 48. Now you take that 48 and you're going to store it inside num1, which is fine because num1 is an int. And so as we see over here, I put the i's and the d's for ints and doubles so that we know what we're working with. So then we cross out the 6, and that's going to be replaced by 48. So that would be considered the current value now of num1. We go to the next line down, and it calls num1. Well, num1 is no longer 6. It is 48. So you need to use the current value because it's been changed. Num3 is 7. So 48 modulus 7, 48 divided by 7 is 6. That's 42, and you have 6 remainder. So the remainder is 6, and it's going to get stored in 2, which is an int, which makes sense. So this is 6. The next line, we take 27, and we are going to divide it by whatever num2 is. Well, num2 is actually now 6. It used to be 8, but now it's 6. So we're going to put a 6 here for the return value because that is the current value. 27 divided by 6 is supposed to be an int because both operands are ints, and that's 6 goes into 27 4 times, and so that's 4. Now 4 is going to be stored in the int num3. That makes sense, so we change that memory location to 4. Next line down, num1 is still 48, and then num5, that return value is 5.0. Because we have a double as one of the operands, then we are going to use the calculator and keep the decimal. So 48 plus 5.0 is 53.0, not 53, but 53.0. Alright, so it is a decimal. Now we're going to take this and we're going to try to store it in num2, which is an int. Well, doubles are bigger than ints, and so they won't fit inside of an int. So therefore you get an error message. So what we do is we cross that off, and we don't do anything in the memory locations. Alright, then number 19, or line 19, num1 is still 48, and num5 is still 5.0. And so we take 48 divided by 5.0. Now this one of the operands is a double, so we are going to keep the decimal, and this is going to end up being 9.6. The 9.6 is going to now be stored in num4, which is a decimal, so that works. Then we go on to the next one. Now this has parentheses here, so we're going to do what's inside the parentheses first. Num2 is still 6, and num3 is still 4. And so that makes 6 plus 4 is 10. They're both in, so the answer has to be 10. Alright, so now num1 is 48 still. So we're going to take 48 and we're going to divide it by 10. Now they're both ints, so we're going to use the calculator and drop the decimal. So 48 goes into, or 10 goes into 48 4 times. Alright, so now we're going to store the 4, or the int, inside of num5, which is a double. Now it fits. An int is smaller, so it does fit inside of num5. But when it gets put in there, it's converted to a decimal because it's a double variable. So it's got to be converted to a decimal, which means just add a 0.0. Line 22. Num3 is 4, and num5 is 4.0 now. So we got to make sure we use the new value. One of these is a double, one of the operands, so the result has to be a double. So it's 4 plus 4.0 is not 8, it's 8.0. And now we're going to take this 8.0 and we're going to store it in num2. However, num2 is an int, so doubles are bigger than ints, so they cannot fit inside of the int. So this is going to get an error message, incompatible types. And so then we cross that line out and don't do anything in the memory locations. Alright, and then we're going to go to line 23. Num2 is 6, num3 is 4. Now 6 divided by 4, it has to be an int because both operands are ints. That means use the calculator, drop the decimal. So 6 divided by 4 is just 1. Now the 1 is going to be stored in num4. Num4 is a double, so therefore that int has to be converted to a double automatically, in fact, and so the 1 becomes 1.0. Alright, so this should be your ending values for these 5 variables. And that's it.